The Three Sisters and Their Brother. In the faraway kingdom of Alfrin, high in the misty mountains, there lived a family in a humble stone house, nestled at the edge of an enchanted forest. The family consisted of three sisters, Leora, Amara, and Selene, and their younger brother, Kale. Their parents had passed away when Kale was just a boy, leaving the eldest sister, Leora, to care for the others. Leora was the wisest, Amara the bravest, and Selene the most mysterious, her eyes always filled with dreams. Kale, though young, had always looked up to his sisters for guidance. The four lived peacefully in their secluded home, each playing a role in ensuring the family's survival. Leora tended the garden and managed their household. Amara hunted in the forests for food. Selene, though quiet and seemingly fragile, spent her days at the edge of the woods, talking to the wind and collecting rare herbs with which she concocted remedies. And Kale, now a young man, was the one who fetched firewood, helped Amara with her hunts, and worked the land. Though they were a happy family, they were bound by a mystery. Their mother, before she died, had whispered something to Leora, something that haunted her dreams each night. She had been told that one day, Kale would be needed to fulfill a destiny that none of them could escape. But the details were unclear. Leora had sworn to protect her siblings at all costs, especially her brother, the last hope of their family's legacy. The threat from the enchanted woods. As the years passed, the enchanted forest near their home began to grow darker. Creatures that had once been distant myths were now real, and a sinister presence spread through the woods, creeping closer to their home. The forest had always been a place of magic and mystery, but now it was growing wild and dangerous. People from neighboring villages whispered about a powerful sorcerer, Aldric, who had risen to power deep in the heart of the woods, amassing an army of dark creatures to seize control of the kingdom. One night, as the four siblings sat by the fire, an eerie wind blew through the windows, bringing with it a voice, cold and malevolent. "The time has come, children of the old blood. Your destiny awaits in the forest of shadows." Amara stood, her hand instinctively going to the dagger at her waist. "We must leave. We cannot stay here any longer," she said, her eyes fierce. But Leora, the eldest, knew the time had come to reveal the truth. "No, we cannot run. This has been foretold. Our brother is the key to ending this darkness." Kale looked at his eldest sister, confused. "What do you mean? I am no one special. I am just a hunter's son." Leora's face softened, but her voice remained firm. "Mother told me before she died that you, Kale, are destined to face Aldric. You possess a power even you do not understand. The quest begins into the forest." The next day, the four siblings prepared for a journey into the forest. Knowing that their peaceful life could no longer be, Leora packed food and potions, while Amara sharpened her blades. Selene, as always, was quiet, her eyes filled with a sadness that Kale couldn't comprehend. And Kale himself felt an unease deep within him, a stirring as though something long dormant was awakening in his blood. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the trees closed in around them, their gnarled branches casting twisted shadows on the ground. Strange noises echoed through the mist, and the air grew thick with an unnatural chill. The path they walked was not an ordinary one. It seemed to shift beneath their feet, leading them farther from the world they knew and deeper into Aldric's domain. Days passed, and the siblings encountered many trials, wolves with glowing eyes, rivers that whispered secrets, and riddles posed by ancient spirits. But with each challenge, they grew closer, relying on their bond as family to guide them. Leora's wisdom saved them from countless traps. Amara's courage saw them through battles, and Selene's strange connection to the magic of the forest led them to safety more than once. The dark sorcerer Aldric. At last, they reached the heart of the forest, where Aldric's dark tower loomed, a jagged structure of black stone that seemed to pierce the sky. The air here was heavy with magic, and the ground beneath them hummed with a dark power. It was here that Cale began to feel the truth of Leora's words. The power within him was stirring, growing stronger with each step he took toward the tower. Before they could enter the tower, Aldric himself appeared, cloaked in shadows, his eyes glowing with a cruel light. He looked at the siblings with a sneer. "So, the children of the old blood have come to face me," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Did you think you could defeat me? I have waited centuries for this moment." Cale stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "What do you want from us?" he demanded. Aldric's gaze shifted to Cale, and his sneer grew wider. "You, boy, are the key to my power. Your blood carries the magic of the old gods, the magic that I need to complete my transformation." The siblings were taken aback. Selene, who had remained quiet for most of the journey, suddenly spoke up. "You will not take him," she said, her voice steady. "We will not allow it." Aldric laughed, the sound echoing through the forest like the crack of thunder. "You have no choice. The prophecy is clear. The boy's blood is mine. The great sacrifice, a choice made." In that moment, Leora understood what had to be done. The prophecy had not just spoken of Kel's power, but also of a great sacrifice. She realized that in order to save her brother and the kingdom, one of them would need to give their life. "I will do it," Leora said softly, stepping forward. "If my blood is of the same line as Kel's, then take mine. Spare my brother." But before she could act, Selene, the quietest of the three sisters, stepped forward. "No, Leora, it must be me." Her eyes met Kel's, and for the first time, he saw the depth of love and sorrow in them. "I have known this from the moment I touched the winds of the forest. I was meant for this." Cale was horrified. "No, Selene, you can't." Selene smiled sadly. "I was never meant to walk in this world for long. Cale, my place has always been with the magic of the forest." She turned to Aldric. "You will have me, sorcerer, but you will leave my brother and sisters unharmed." Aldric's eyes narrowed. He could sense the truth in her words. The power she held, a power even he had not expected. "Very well," he said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "Come to me, and I shall spare them." Selene stepped forward, and as she did, her form seemed to shimmer, as though she was already becoming one with the magic of the forest. She turned one last time to her siblings, her eyes filled with peace. "Take care of each other," she whispered, and with that, she placed her hand in Aldric's, and the two of them vanished into the shadows. A new beginning. The forest around the siblings began to change the moment Aldric and Selene disappeared. The darkness lifted, and the trees, once gnarled and twisted, began to bloom with new life. The air was fresh and filled with the scent of flowers, and the animals, once silent and fearful, began to stir. Leora, Amara, and Kale stood in silence, their hearts heavy with the loss of their sister. But they knew that her sacrifice had saved not just them, but the entire kingdom. As they made their way back home, Kale felt the power within him settle, no longer a burden, but a gift. He had been saved by the love and sacrifice of his sisters, and he vowed to honor Selene's memory by using his power for good. Years passed, and the siblings became known throughout the kingdom as heroes. Kale, with Leora's wisdom and Amara's strength by his side, helped to rebuild the kingdom, ensuring that Selene's sacrifice was never forgotten. And though the forest still held its mysteries, it was no longer a place of darkness, but a place of wonder, where the spirit of their sister lived on, in the wind, the trees, and the magic of the world.